Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video we're going to be looking at creating our own spaceship asset as well as some basic material for it and bringing it into the Unreal Engine. As well, at the end we're going to create a little bit of a particle effect that can help make our spaceship look a little bit more functional and a little better. Today we're going to be starting off using GIMP. If you're using a different photo editing software, this should all work the same way. But once you get it opened up, we're going to come in and create a new image. We're going to set this image to a width of 8 and a height of 8. That's going to give us 64 pixels to work with. You see it's really small. It's a small amount of pixels. So if you hold control and scroll down, you can get a better view of this. And come over to the paintbrush, click on it, and now we're going to put some color on there. I like to start with a little bit of red. Just kind of mix it in, get a nice variation in the color, and then maybe some blue. Work it in so you get a little purple in there, and then some green. You can mix it in a little bit. That should be fine for what we're doing. And then I like to add a little white down here just so we get some variation in the white. We can get some gray. Maybe we need some darker ones. You can just kind of click on it, darken it a little bit, and then I don't know, maybe lighten up a few of these. And that's a little too light, but we can come back in here and just adjust it. So that's looking fine. We don't need too much for this. And then we're going to come over to export as. I'm going to name this 64 space colors, make sure it's a PNG, and then export it. So now we can come over to Blender and start to create our spaceship. So we're going to do a general file. Go ahead and delete these two things. I'm going to come over to this cube here. If you hit tab, you go into edit mode, and then you hit Control R, and you can do a loop cut. Hit right click so it's right in the middle. Hit 3, and you can click this whole face, delete all the vertices, and now we have half a cube. I come over to the modifier tab, add modifier, and add a mirror modifier. You see that it mirrors it across, and when you move it, it also moves. So what we need to do here is enable clipping so that the edges stay edges. One thing you do need to watch out for is if you pull an edge in like so, it will not come apart. So that's just something you have to watch out for. When your vertices cross over, they won't be able to come apart. So now that we have here, one good thing to do, just so it looks a little better, come up here and hit cavity and increase the valleys all the way up, and then add some shadows, and that'll give us just a better view of what actually we're doing. And so now we just begin to model a spaceship. I like to start out and just get two sides like that. And then you can kind of just play around and see what you want to do. If you don't know what I just did there, if you hit E, you can extrude a face. And so that's what I'll be doing. Hit E to extrude. And then as you go, you hit S, you can scale it a little bit, drag it out. So that's starting to get a little cockpit there. And then come out. And so maybe here we can drag it out a little bit. And hit S to scale it, but instead of scaling all of this, if you hit Z, you can scale it only on the Z axis. So you can drag it out. If you hit G, you can move things. And so you can just begin to have some form to your spaceship. Maybe drag out here, and so this is kind of the wings, and then extrude it out again, scale it on the Z axis, move it with G, and then we have a little bit of a wing there going on. And so you can scale this out entirely, or scale just on the x-axis. That might be good. So you just kind of do what looks good to you. Doesn't really matter what it looks like as long as you think it looks good. So this, we can start making a little engine here. Extrude it out again, maybe scale it. If you hit I, you can insert a face into what you're doing. So maybe I, and then extrude it, and see that it started the face on both sides, and then you pull it out. And so from here, maybe scale it down, extrude it, scale it down, maybe pull it out. If it starts moving around that, when you hit G, you can hit Y, and it'll move it only on that axis. And so, I mean, that's how it works with most things. If you extrude it, you can extrude it on the x-axis by hitting X afterwards, or on the z-axis by hitting again, or the Y. That kind of helps you keep it straight, and then you won't get as many weird looking vertices. So if we just keep going, we can work it out a little bit more, maybe build that up, come out, build it down, and then we can insert another face here, and then just push that in. So there we have it. We have a little bit of an engine. It looks alright. So if we come up here to our cockpit, what we can do is we can insert a face here, and if you hit I, see it inserts the face, and then you hit B, now it's going to combine it with the mirrored side. And so if you insert it like there, and then extrude it down, you see you get this whole thing. And so that's a good way to work with the mirrored edge instead of it being a separate thing. And then maybe scale it a little bit. That's a nice little cockpit we got there. So last thing we need on here, we're going to need a little something to shoot with. So maybe insert a face here, and then extrude it out a little bit, size it down, extrude it a little bit. I don't know. Maybe we won't put a gun there, but that still looks nice. Maybe we put a gun on this. Yeah, we can put two here. We can size it down a little bit, and then we get a nice little base for it. Maybe insert a face, extrude that up, then extrude it again, and then let's do it one more time. So it's nice you can look at the other side, so you don't have like this yellow thing, but you can kind of see what's going on over there. So maybe we can extrude a face here, and then extrude it. So it's a little sideways, but we can come up right here and then kind of move it a little bit. Maybe rotate it. If you hit R, you can rotate. It's really based on how you're looking at it. So if I rotate here, you see how it comes that way, or here, or even like here, you're just rotating down. So you gotta kind of make sure you're looking at the right angle, but that's fine. Insert a face, we can put it in, size it down so nothing is sticking out, and then so maybe just add a little cylinder here for a turret. So if you right click this, make sure it's selected, hit Shift S, go to cursor to selected. The world cursor is going to be right in the middle of there. So that's going to help. We're going to come up here to add. We're going to add a cylinder. It's going to add it right on that. So if you hit 3 on your numpad, you can come up at a straight look right here. So that helps when you're rotating. So if you rotate, hit R, and then you can type in 90 in your number pad, hit 90, and it'll rotate it to a 90-degree angle. And there we have this facing the right way, and we can scale it down a little bit. Oops. Scale it down. And if you, like you saw there, if you hit right click, it'll cancel what you just did. So that's looking fine. We can pull this out. It's a little off. If you come up here again, we can select this. Since this is an object by itself, if you hover over it and hit L, it'll only select all the faces on this object. Like if you hit L hovering over this, you'll select all of that. But come here, right click, hit L, you can look at that again. And so it's straightforward. This is a little curved out, but for what we're doing right now, it will be fine. If you hit 1 on the numpad also, you can get this straight on look. So we can do that to kind of move it there, maybe a little over. Won't really matter because nobody's going to be looking directly in. You're going to be looking from behind. So it doesn't have to be perfect. But if you hit 1 again on the numpad and then hit Shift D, we can duplicate this whole thing. And then we can put it about right there. So that gives us 4 little turrets on our spaceship. If your spaceship doesn't look the same, that is not a problem. It's probably a good thing. You can use your imagination. You can just play with it. I've made plenty of these. It's just a lot of fun. It's just something you can do when you got nothing else to do. So let's add a little more detail here. Maybe inset and then extrude. Do that. Scale it. And then right here, if you hit I again, you can do separate faces. Extrude it, and then maybe move it back a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. And then right here, let's add a little something there. Inset a face. I didn't really want to inset 2 different faces, but it looks good. So now with the image that we created earlier, we can begin to add a little color to this. So if we come down to, come down to material, we see that it already is a material. And then go to UV editing or shading, actually. That'll just pull up this menu. And then this is where we're going to have to drag in our texture file. And so we grab the one we did, space colors. We're going to drag this color in to base color right there. And then you can see it's starting to look a little better. You're going to want to come down to here. Instead of linear, you want it to be closest. So it'll do the closest color because it's such a small image file. You're going to want it to be right on which ones you're using. It looks a little different here, but we'll fix that. So come back over to UV editing. You have to scroll in here because it's really small. Come over and hit A, and you'll select everything, and then you'll select everything in here and scale it, put it to 0. So that means we can just put it wherever we want. And then if we come up here, we hit this one, and it's going to render it with the colors that we choose. And so what you can do is say, so this is the cockpit. I want that. So select that, and then here you're just going to select it and hit G. So then you can move it to whichever color you want. And so maybe right here you're going to see that you don't really have the colors that you want to be using, so you can go back into your photo editing software and quickly make different colors and then quickly add it here. It's a simple way to do it for right now. Maybe later on we'll do some actual real texturing, but for now this works just fine. So you're just going to be selecting things that you want. So I like all these. Go over here and select them all again. Hit G. Let's make these blue. And then since those are blue, come here. A quick way, if you are grabbing the top face here, you can hit Control plus, and that'll select all of the next ones available, all the next faces available. And then again, come over here, select them all, hit G, and then just do that blue again. We can do that same for here. And so using that, use that same technique. If you hit shift and click, you can click multiple ones. And then hit control plus again, select all, move it over to the blue, starting to look a little better. So I want to get all of these faces, and again I'm just shift right clicking here to select all these, and then gonna make these blue also, select them all, hit G, move it. So that's a little better. What else should we do? Come in here and hit L on, gotta deselect that, hit L on that, and then hit L on that. Select it all and move it. Let's make it black for our turret. Looks fine. Control plus again, control plus again. That'll select both those. And then maybe make that purple. I don't like that. Let's make it. That looks good. Kind of. And then we'll do the engines. So if you select in here and then hit Control plus, we can select all of this really quick. Maybe I'll go all the way up to there. Select it all. We're gonna go to this gray. That looks fine. If you come over and you hit select minus, you can begin to work your way back in here. And so that way we can quickly change these a little bit. You can't really tell the difference, but that's fine. And then there you have it. A little thing you can do here. I kind of like the look of this. Come in here and insert a face. Hit B. Hit I to join it all. Hit B, and then you can extrude this out. Insert another face. Well, scale that down a little bit. Insert another face. Move that up. Makes a little thing. I don't know. Looks alright. And so that's the whole model that we have now. Yours might look different, but it's just up to you how much level of detail you want to put in or not. It's your game. So now that we have this working model, we can come back up here and go to File. First we need to make sure we save it. Spacecraft 1. Always make sure you save things. And then now that it's saved, we can export it. You're going to export it as an FBX file. And then you come here. You want to make sure these are correct. Your forward is going to be which direction it's looking, and your up is going to be which way is up when it goes into Unreal. So if you're looking now, you can look at this right here. So X forward is that way, and negative X is that way. So looking forward is going to be negative X, and then Z is going to be up. Those are going to be your axes. So come back into export, and so forward, we said it was negative Y, and then Z is going to be up. And then the rest of these you can leave, you don't need to worry about them. And then from the saved it has it, and then export FBX. So one thing that I found once I tried importing it, if you come in to back in the Blender before you import it, you're going to want to come up here to this little double circle that says show overlays, and you're going to want to click on face orientation. So what you see here, these red ones, these are inverted faces, and so when you put it in Unreal Engine, these are actually going to be invisible, and then you're going to be able to see inside of these faces. So if you have any red on your spaceship, you're going to want to go into edit mode and then select them all. on here. I just hover over and hit L, and then you're going to want to hit Alt, and then from there you're just going to hit flip, and that should fix it. Now all these faces are in the right orientation, and we can, if you have to, just re-export it, and it should overwrite your file. You shouldn't have to go and delete it. It should automatically just rewrite over what you've already done. So once we open back up our project file, we can begin to import our spaceship. So click Content, Flying Meshes, and we're going to want to import it here just so they're all together once you start adding more and more meshes. So hit Import, and then under Documents, and then Blender Stuff, can scroll and find our spacecraft. And so you see I've changed the import scale a little bit. From the size of mine, after I've already imported it, I needed it to drop to about 0.2. You probably will be the same. 0.2 would probably be good for everyone's, depending on the size, but that worked for me. And then make sure you're creating a new material and you're going to import it. You're going to get a few errors. It's nothing to worry about. And then we can come in here and drag out our spacecraft and look at it. So first thing you'll notice is the textures are probably going to be off. They might be off a little bit, they might be off a lot. The way to fix that, we're going to go into Textures, and then scroll down to Texture Group, 2D Pixels, and then scroll back up to Compression Settings and Vector Displacement Map. So if we zoom in, you can see that it's all correct. So save that, exit out, and then come into the materials. Some of you will get an error here, and the easiest way to fix it, you're going to grab this texture, drag and drop it in, and then link these up and delete the old one. Sometimes you get the errors, sometimes you don't. It'll just vary. So save it, exit, and everything should be good. So if we come into our flying blueprint, flying pawn, go to the viewport, we are going to change these out. So click on plane mesh and find your spacecraft, and you're going to see that it is rotated a little bit. If we just rotate it in here, it's just going to create different problems. So hit compile, minimize that, and then come back to our mesh. So you're going to open it, come down to transform and import rotation. So if you click up here, you can see for mine, if I rotate it -90 degrees on the z-axis, it will fix it. Yours might be different. Yours might be all kinds of different. It might be looking like that. It might look like this. But don't worry about it. Just find how it fixes it. So if yours is like this, then going -90 on the y and -90 on z would fix it. And so make sure you zero these out, and then come to your spacecraft, and you want to plug those numbers in here. So mine is just -90 to fix it. Then hit save and lower that, and then you're going to want to right click on your file and hit re-import, and that should fix it. So we can delete this from the viewport already, and then we already see here it's already changed. Oops. It's already changed in here and looks good. So the scale is maybe a little off. I can bring this down to -8. You want to make sure this is locked. If it's not, you're gonna see stuff like this. And while that does make it look a little cooler, it still warps other things. So Make sure it's locked so you're scaling all of these on the same numbers, and then hit compile and play, and now you have your spaceship in the game. So to end this video, we're going to add a little particle effect to our engines. But to do that, we're going to come back to our spacecraft mesh, and we're going to place 2 sockets in here. Oops. So sockets are going to be spots on your mesh that you can add other things to. Later on, we'll add 2 sockets to each of these. You can add 4 if you really want, but for now we're going to put 2 on our engine. So hit create socket. We're going to do engine L, create socket, engine R. If you just put 1 big engine on there, you don't have to do 2. But for now, since I have 2 engines, I'm going to do 2. If you put 4, then you're going to put 4. But so you're just going to drag these out and put them inside the engine, and then kind of make sure they're a little centered. If you come up here to units, so this is going to be 10 units, but if you drag it to 1, you can get a little bit more precise. The same goes for angles. If you're rotating, you can rotate by 5 degrees or 90 degrees, but it just depends on what you need. So if we drag these into the middle, that's about right. I'm going to put them a little further out, just so we don't run into some issues with it. But for now, that looks pretty good. So hit save, and then come back to our flying pond. And so now we have these 2 sockets in here. You can't see them, but we're going to come to the event graph. Actually, come to viewport first, and we're going to add 2 components. Make sure you're selecting this, hit 2 components, particle system, and then another particle system, and if it didn't go on there, you can drag it on. So hit compile, hit save. Go ahead and hit save all, just so you're not losing any progress in case something crashes. So you can come over here and rename this engine L particle, engine R particle. So now compile, event graph, and now we're going to put these here. So what we're going to be doing is, currently if we're looking at it, we can go ahead and set this. The starter content is going to give you these. Sparks is kind of the best one. The other ones don't really do well in this situation. So you're going to see that they're not set to a socket, they're right in the middle, but that is why we have these sockets. So if you come here, parent socket, engine L, right here, engine R. So now we have these 2 in our engine, and what we're going to need to do first is scale these a little bit. So scale it to about 0.5, scale it to about 0.5, so that's looking kind of good. You might need to move the sockets in a little bit, but we can change it up later. Hit compile, and then come to the event graph. So what variables we have max speed, we have current forward speed, and so that's going to be probably the best one to do. So if we drag in, this is going to be this is thrust, so actually I was in the wrong spot. If we come to the tick, we're going to move it out here, and then we're going to drag out current forward speed and max speed. So we're going to divide this by our max speed, and that's going to give us a variable from 0 to 1. And then from here, we're going to drag out our engine particle, set scale, set relative 3D scale, and then we're going to drag that out, and then we can drag this one out, do the same thing, set relative scale, move that a little bit, and then what we have here, we're going to have to make a vector come down, and so this is going to plug in here, plug in here. What you can also do is you can actually just plug that straight in, now that I think about it. That's a little cleaner. But what we get here is this is going to be scaled off of your speed. So if you have max speed, it's going to be full scale. And if it's at a lower speed, it's not going to be quite full scale. So if you hit play, you can see that. And then hit shift to thrust. You see as you're going, it's getting bigger and bigger. And it just adds a nice little touch and a little bit of special effects to our project. That will conclude this video, and in the next video we will start to work on shooting. Thank you.